Welcome back to Let's Talk Race and Model. I'm your host, Harrison Paul, and today we are going to talk about a French artist called Aya. I'm not, I will actually not do a great job of her surname, so I'm not going to put her surname. I'm sorry, sis, but I'm going to still go with Aya. So basically, what is taking place is the French are having a dispute amongst themselves, race wars regarding should a black woman, an African descent woman, an French African descent, be singing. She's been chosen to sing in the Olympics. I guess on behalf of France. Now there's big dispute over this. They feel like the French would have liked one of their own to sing in, and so apparently there was like a banner I'm gonna put up on the screen for you guys to see. I don't speak French. My lady speaks French, so she kind of was letting me know all this what was going on. And basically, the banner says, "This is Paris, not Bamako Market." So just a lot of racist wars, as you can imagine. And I'll give a headline from the Times: France and racism row after Olympics plan for Edith Piaf song. Nearly 2/3 of French public think Mali-born Aya Nakamura should not perform at the opening ceremony this summer. So listen, as you know, racist will be racist. That's not really my, today I didn't really want to come on here and talk and complain about that. But what I wanted to do was to kind of us to get to talking about something that's very, very interesting. So what we can look at actually is the fact that quite recently, I'm gonna put the image on the screen for you to see. The South African team had arrived. They arrived somewhere, and the whole team was white, right? Of course, we know Africa is of black people are from there. So when I saw that, at first didn't know what angle. I never want to give an obvious angle. I never want to just get on here and talk about something you could hear on 50 different YouTube channels. I like to come on and try at least give something I feel like an angle that, you are probably not getting from other channels. And I couldn't help but notice that, when that came through a few days ago, on one end, we got a whole South African team filled with white people. And okay, that's whatever. We already understand what the story is in South Africa. We already understand that really apartheid never ended. The violence in apartheid, but the dominance of white people never ended in South Africa. And then we know how, even I think I'll put up on the screen as well, Mrs. Zimbabwe was a white woman. Why these things are important is because we're being discriminated against here in Europe, and then we're not the standard of beauty, Eurocentric beauty standards, all the sorts. And then back home, we are still then putting Eurocentric standards at the top, at the pinnacle of us, which is whoever thought this would be a good inclusive idea is obviously a very uneducated and out of touch person, because we are still struggling to make our women understand that their hair is beautiful, that God didn't make a mistake when he made them. We are still getting women to understand their dark skin. We still have bleaching in our community. It's not the right move to make. You really have to be able to read the room. Anyway, upon all these things happening, it took me to France, which, my lady brought to me. And I was like, isn't it interesting that in one end, Africans are making making the white people like the forefront, where they can in this team that you see on the screen. And then the Europeans are fighting because black people are at the forefront. So you have that balance, right? And or I guess that contrast between the two. But the main point I wanted to get here and say is, do you not think President Macron could have picked a white person? I want you to understand that white people, and this is why they have people who come out and they're self-determined to a negative place. The only reason we would probably want an all-black team when we talk about a South African team is because there's discrimination here, right? There's discrimination of resources, and there's a discrimination of resources happening in Africa, which is why people come to Europe to get opportunity, and then we're discriminated against because we're told that this is not our home, and that we should just be second-class citizens. So this is why we have a problem with it. Then some would say, oh, but look, It's black players on the English team in football or different stuff like that. I could divulge on that all day, but let's put it this way. They're still going to make Harry Kane the main man. We've seen this. We can divulge this. They will still make their people the main people, regardless if a black boy put on the work. We watched one of the Euros. Sterling put one of the hardest shifts in to get England where they were, and the headlines would still amplify, and underline Harry Kane. It's just how they operate. That's just how they move. We're not going to cry about that, but follow where I'm going. So when you see President Macron make a move like this, right, I want you to understand that everything is political. Nothing is by chance. I think we're underestimating the times we're in, the times of the internet, the times there's something really, really special going on, guys. And if you're not awake, you're going to miss it. This is one of the greatest revolutions of African revolutions of all time. Why? Because it's global, because we are united through the internet. And I'm telling you, as someone, I don't like to give away my mother's age, but she's been alive, she's been around, she's seen black movements. She can honestly say this movement of the internet, this after George Floyd, is probably the biggest black movement because of the unity worldwide. Because we are now able to fill in the gaps and understand each other's experiences and I guess unpack the mind of the oppressor, where we can then figure out how to defeat him. And it's all thanks to the era of the internet. Before this, black people were just being as obedient as they could in wherever they lived, in Germany, in England, in Africa, in whatever. But now an American can get strength from an English. An English can find strength from a Jamaican. A Jamaican can find strength from a Canadian. A Canadian can find strength from a North American. Or sorry, a South American. It is this, and then we have all these wonderful pages. One of my good friends at the moment, African Motivation, that runs a page where we are all educating. Now, I'm now friends with a guy from Rwanda, and we're doing stuff together, and it's beautiful. We're connected on this desire to uplift and rehabilitate Africa. Now, this era that we're in, it is causing people like, I love the Burkina Faso leader, Traore. Young men like him who are understanding it, my generation are expecting something from me. One of my last videos that's out now, I spoke about Robert Mugabe. And I talked about how towards his later age, he began to realize what kind of posture he should have had with the British all along, with the Europeans all along. But it was too late. It was too late. And one of the things they kept asking him was, why the change in tone? Why the change in tone? Because he thought that maybe if I played to their tune well enough, they will allow me, they will sing with me fairly. That's not how they do, because they can just change and change and change the goalposts. But when we take up this forceful mentality, this rebellious mentality, but the people have to be on the same page. And this is where the internet comes in. Because now when your people are supposed to back you, for example, Boris Johnson right now is about to get called back into office to sit on like a Red Bull seat or something like that. I was reading about it this morning. He's going to be brought back into office simply because the people stick by him. His people who enjoy Boris Johnson's honest racist design are, same with Trump, will stick by you, which will have you in places that everyone says, no matter what, no one says, people who are on your agenda will support you. The problem with African people is because we are so indoctrinated and we do not believe that we can survive without the white man. So everything we do, we cannot think for ourselves. Every opinion we have, it must be okay with the white man. It must be okay with the white man. Nothing we do can be independent of him. So now when we have leaders like Julius Malema, who should be way bigger than he is, but his movement goes against a lot of Negroes' master. And then this is where the issue is. But anyway, Traore is going, and we wish him the best of luck, and he's doing great, and he's going. He's already, I think, overcome 4 coups. This is not going to be straightforward. His life is on the line. But check this out. France in this era is losing power of the colonial countries, their colonies. They are losing power year after year. It's now changing. Strength is coming. So now France know he has to pander a little bit to say, we're not racist in France. We are accepting France. You have to understand a political move. That's a political move. And this is the positivity of us gaining strength, that they understand they have to make a move like this. This is a big, major moment. Don't miss this moment. So all I wanted you to understand is that Macron would have picked a white girl, no problem, had it not been for the fact that things are changing. Now, check this out, all right? The problem with Africans is that we have believed the narrative of our corruption. We have believed the myth. This myth was set in order to hide the crimes of the imperialist. Because how do you accuse him of crime when really of theft, when he can just say that you are mismanaging your money? We have to use Israel as an example. We just watched Israel charges whisked away, and we are all watching blatant crime in front of our eyes. But guess what? Whisked away under the carpet. Because you have to understand that the very people who operate in the court, the very people who are supposed to judge these scenarios, these situations, or these cases, are the very people who are benefiting from these agendas. So check this out. I want to read out a comment that I got today. This comment really set me. Check this out. So I posted my video today regarding Africa, how the EU exploit Africa and all the sorts. Wonderful video, had receipts, all the sorts. Not just my opinion, receipts from actual MEPs, people who are working in the European Union. People who are doing a righteous job as MPs in the European Union. Check this out. He says, Africa is full of resources and also full of people who have no idea how to do what to do with them. I'll read it again. Africa is full of resources and also full of people who have no idea what to do with them. I want to then read to you, brothers and sisters. There's a guy called Dr. Cartwright Smith. Dr. Samuel Cartwright. This is my mother's book, by the way. It's an extract from a book. Thank you, Mrs. G. Colonized Mindset to Total Emancipation. Was going over the book quite recently, and then I found this gem. I thought it would be perfect for the episode today. Check this out. Dr. Samuel Cartwright said, like children, this guy, by the way, sorry to give a little context, he was a physician. He was a really, really prominent doctor, well-respected. People knew him to be, had all the answers type guy, right? You can imagine. Take anybody of this time and think of him back then, right? He said, like children, Negroes require government in everything, or they will run into excesses. I'll repeat. Like children, Negroes require government in everything, or they will run into excesses. I want you to understand that this was a quote from a guy who lived back before they had photographs, if I'm not mistaken. I went to look for a picture of him and I could only find a painting. So I was briefly looking for this quote. But anyway, he's old. This is a long time ago. And this is what he said. right? Now, I want to read you a quote that Boris Johnson said in 2002. I'm pretty sure he said this. The problem is not that we were once in charge, but that we are not in charge anymore. So I have just read you 3 quotes, one from 19 so-and-so, one from 2002, and one from today. I got that comment today. Africa is full of resources and also full of people who have no idea what to do with them. This narrative was set back then. And your issue, my brother, my sister, is that you have been indoctrinated to perpetuate that narrative. I said you have been indoctrinated to perpetuate that narrative. Why? Because when you perpetuate the narrative of corruption, then how do you blame the perpetrator for the crime? When really we must understand, one of the greatest things that I said it before and I'll say it again, Ghana recently were looking to get their artifacts back, and they only were able to get a small term of it borrowed back to them. Why? I watched an interview, and someone who understood the laws of why this had to take place the way it did is because it said the law says we must keep it in our position. The law says. Now, when we look at Israel, when we look at all sorts of things, they now judge that being the law. When we look at people like Mugabe, spoke about in my last video, he was put under sanctions. Even though he's fighting the US, he's put under sanctions by the IMF, who are the US's friends. We watched the fact that Congo was just, the case about Congo's minerals and child labor was thrown out. Why? Because the very people who we are expecting to give us justice are the very people who benefit from the exploitation. The European Union, the IMF, the UN, these people were formed in order to keep Africa down. That is why a revolution is the only thing that can save Africa. A rebellious revolution is the only thing that can save Africa. Because they change goalposts and they set the rules to what they need them to be at any given point. There is no outdoing them in the game that they have set the rules. Why I hate this narrative is because I need you to understand that even people like Macron understand that he needs Africa. That is why he's putting a black woman there, because he understands a revolution is happening. Africa will be freed when the mind of the African end is a revolution. He is now trying to fix public perception. It's a political move. What does that tell you about our importance? When a man like Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak is trying to get a vote and he knows to call back a man who's made so much mess, but his people are so for his racist agenda, they will vote him back in and risk him making more of a mess financially or policy-wise. Do you understand what I'm saying? I need you to understand that when we perpetuate these narratives, brothers and sisters, we are playing into the hands that he exactly set for us back when Samuel Cartwright said it. I need you to understand, I'll say this before I sign off. They have forced you to look at the situation between Africa as though it was two boys who had a scruff in the backyard, in the parking lot. People came, said, break it up. They shook hands and they went on. You yourself, you work for a company. They have plans set for the next 70 years. When we look at events like in 1884, the Berlin Conference, we understand that people, real intelligent people, yes, you can use intelligence for crooked. You can use your intelligence to be crooked. Intelligent people sat down on how they could dismantle and destabilize Africa. This was not on a whim. This was not you and I. This was real people who could do real books. And they had people in, even in your job, you got people in different, I guess, departments. And they are there making sure this company runs. Apple is not disorganized. Apple is not going to get a surprise attack in the next 40 years. They have their next 70 years set out. What made you think Germany, England, France, Ireland, all these countries in the European Union, and even the European Union themselves, the people who work in, who is to tell you that these people were not going to properly plan out in their criminal way? And it just shows you that you have such a desire to undermine the Negro, that yet you know these people are corrupt and crooked. You would still rather believe the Negro is incapable and incompetent, and that is why he is where he is. It is not something that is far-fetched to understand that people who work in the European Union, people who work up there, are so corrupt and greedy. Yet, it was hard for this guy to just accept that it was organized crime and get the ganging up of organizations, world organizations, that has Africa in the place that it is. Because there's only one answer if Africa becomes free. And we will be the big boys. And you will be coming to us to ask for things. And Julius Malema, when he speaks to people, I might put this video for you guys to see. He says, you will not speak to me like a little boy. You will not speak to me like a little boy.
We have no problem with white people. Let's engage from a respectful point of view. Don't treat me like a boy. Don't address me like a boy. If you are giving the EFF money, means you must address me like a boy. You can take your money. We don't want it.
He's understanding that we need to change this. They prefer it when they speak to Africans like the little boy. And they will go through any means necessary to assure that that dynamic remains permanent. Yes, meaning they will even do unethical behavior. Meaning the very people who, if we were to do things righteously and go to the law, or like South Africa did with with Israel, charge them or bring them to court, how far did they get with that? Netanyahu is still bombing like he's lost his mind. You guys need to understand these things. Everything is political. Everything is an agenda, from Aya being called up there, but that's a positive thing. We are finally someone who's putting a little bit of fear in someone like Macron. The rest of us need to continue to follow suit in Africa, but we need to support that leader. Those guys will be left in the dark. They will be left in the dark. They will be demonized, they will be villainized, and they will be left to die and rot. A man like Trump should be left to die and rot, but his people are far too dedicated to his agenda to allow that to happen. We need to be the same Africans, considering we're not doing anything injustice, anything wrong. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
And I'm on a mission for you.